Alright guys, it's Charlie Tango 1994 back with another YouTube video. In my last video, we set up and installed my new RTL SDR, along with some free SDR software called HDSDR. Although I'm still getting to grips with the software and how it works, I thought today I would do a bit of a walkthrough of the software. I've still got a lot to learn myself, so it isn't really a tutorial, but in this video, let's get more familiar with the software itself. When you first look at the software, there's a lot to see, so let's first understand some of these panels and what they're for. In reality, there are only 4 key areas in the software. Settings and controls appear in the bottom left of the screen. On the far left is the signal meter, below which are a number of settings with keyboard shortcuts. Across the top of the panel are your mode selectors with your LO frequency and tuning frequency displayed. To the right of that are 2 drop-down boxes. Below the frequency counter is your volume adjustment, and below that, in certain modes, is your automatic gain control. Below that are your play controls. Then below that are a number of audio filters, including noise reduction, noise blanker, gain control off, as well as automatic frequency control, mute, and notch. The upper 2 panels show the waterfall at the top and the spectrum analyzer. Both of these display the RF signals being received in 2 slightly different ways. The 2 lower panels display the audio AF signals in a visual sense. There is more to know about each of these areas, which I will come to as we progress through the video. First, let's understand how we can use the software. Adjusting the frequency can be done in a number of ways. Firstly, you can drag the scale below the waterfall to move through a band. Alternatively, you can manually adjust to a frequency by clicking on the numbers in the frequency display. Left click for up and right click for down. Dragging in the spectrum lets you fine tune to a frequency. Lastly, you can select a specific band from the drop-down next to the frequency display, which also switches you to the relevant mode for that particular band. Down here is access to the RF gain, which can be adjusted using this slider. To get familiar with the software, let's start by going to the FM band to see what local FM broadcast stations we can hear. Let's scroll through the band and see what there is. We're in the portion of frequencies allocated to local commercial radio, where each of these peaks is a signal, and we can highlight any of these to hear the broadcast. Looking at the waterfall also, we can see there in the range of frequencies signals are being detected, so it's easy to see from here what a signal looks like, both in terms of signal bandwidth and power. As I have things set up, the lighter the area, the stronger the signal. If you do not hear your signal in audible quality, you may need to adjust the bandwidth used. This can be done by selecting the bandwidth option in the controls area and selecting a bigger bandwidth. You will also notice the selection on the spectrum analyzer widens also to include more of the frequency range. In certain modes, you can also adjust the slider in the control section to broaden or reduce the selection or bandwidth used. Commercial radio stations broadcast in wide FM to include a broader range of frequency, especially because of playing music and needing more than just the frequencies of a human voice. In other words, with voice or digital signals, you will need to be able to zero in on a particular frequency and usually with narrower bandwidth. You can use these sliders to zoom in on a particular range of frequencies. We can also adjust the noise floor using this slider to be able to pick out peaks appearing as we look for signals. We can also adjust the scale using this slider to show the signal strength, which again makes it easier to see stronger signals. We can also drag in the spectrum to fine-tune to a particular signal. Another area to pay attention to is the AF windows at the bottom. Here we can see audio patterns in the signal, particularly in CW you will see the dits and dars represented here. Here also we can adjust the volume, contrast and speed so that it's easier to track signals. Adjusting this boundary adjusts the amount of audio frequencies used, which again can help to make a signal more readable. By right-clicking the scales, you can adjust the layout to what suits you when you're looking for particular signals. The record and playback functions are really useful, so you can play back any signals you've received. I know you can use the SDR to do a lot of different things, but for now I'm just dipping my toe in the water. I've been using the supplied antenna both indoors and for a couple of evenings this week, and other than the expected strong signals from local radio stations, I've not had a lot of luck on the bands. I used to listen to a lot of airband on my old scanners, so set up in the garden for a couple of evenings this week, and even though there are less planes in the air at the moment, I did get some traffic between airplanes and flight control. I do think you'll get a better receive if you set up your antenna outside, or at very least near a window rather than indoors, but I'd be happier with trying some other antennas. I might get round to building a long wire antenna to go in the garden to see what happens then. I've spotted a nice little dipole set up on eBay, so I'll probably get hold of one of these soon and see how we get on. Until the next video, I'll say 7 threes.